It's a Friday night in July 1975, and the sun is just starting to go down. You're in the back of the station wagon in your pajamas, because Mom said you could wear your pajamas. That's the whole point. And Dad is easing the car up the little hump in row 7, nosing it just right so the windshield frames the screen. He reaches out and lifts the speaker off the pole, hangs it on the glass, and gives the window crank half a turn to pin it there. There's a crackle, and then music. The lot smells like popcorn and cut grass and mosquito coils. Down front, under that towering white screen, there's a playground, actual swings, an actual merry-go-round, and it is crawling with kids burning off the last of their daylight. The snack bar glows like a little church in the middle of the lot. On the screen, a cartoon clock is counting down. 10 minutes to showtime. A dancing hot dog is telling your dad to visit the concession stand, and your dad, God bless him, is going to obey. Your sister's already half asleep on a pillow against the wheel well. She'll never make it through the second feature. Nobody expects her to. The floodlights die. 400 cars go quiet at once, and the biggest movie screen you will ever see in your life lights up under the stars. There were more than 4,000 of these places in America once. Tonight, there are barely 300 left. Here's how we let the lights go out. The drive-in was born, of all places, in a driveway in Camden, New Jersey, and it started with a man trying to solve a problem for his mother. Richard Hollingshead was a sales manager at his father's company, Whiz Auto Products. The story goes that his mother was a large woman who found the seats at the local movie house miserably uncomfortable, and Richard, a tinkerer with a salesman's brain, looked at her, looked at the family car, and had a thought nobody had quite had before. What if you never had to leave the car at all? So he experimented, right there in his own driveway. He strapped a 1928 Kodak projector to the hood of the family car, pinned a screen up between the trees, and set a radio behind it for sound. He tested in the rain. He tested with the windows up and down. He worked out how to ramp the cars, front wheels up on a little hill, so every row could see over the row ahead. In May of 1933, he got a patent for it, and less than a month later, with 30,000 Depression-era dollars behind him, he opened the world's first drive-in theater on Admiral Wilson Boulevard near Camden. Opening night was June 6, 1933. The picture was a British comedy called Wives Beware. Admission was 25 cents for the car and 25 cents a person, and no matter how many kids you stuffed in the back, no family paid more than $1. Read that again. In the middle of the Great Depression, a whole family could see a movie, together, in their own car, for $1, tops. Hollingshead advertised it exactly the way it deserved. Entertainment for the whole family. He sold out the first night. But the drive-in didn't conquer America in the 30s. It conquered America when America bought cars and had babies. After the war, the two great engines of the 1950s fired at once, the automobile and the baby boom. Young families with a new Ford in the driveway and 3 kids under 10 had a problem the downtown movie palace could not solve. A night at the pictures meant dressing up, parking, a babysitter, and praying the baby didn't cry in a room full of strangers. The drive-in solved all of it in one stroke. Come as you are. Bring the kids in their pajamas. If the baby cries, who cares? You're in your own car. It was the cheapest possible night out for the people who needed it most. And the owners understood exactly who their customer was. They built playgrounds under the screens. They ran cartoons before the feature. Some had pony rides, miniature golf, bottle warmers for infants. The car got in cheap because the real money was at that glowing snack bar, and the intermission reels with the dancing hot dog became a tiny art form all their own. And it wasn't just families. Ask anyone who was a teenager in 1958 what the drive-in meant and watch them smile. It was the one place in a small town where you could be alone together. They called them passion pits, and half of America's love stories started in row 9. By 1958, there were 4,063 drive-in theaters in the United States, from a bedsheet in New Jersey to 4,000 glowing screens on the edge of every town in America in 25 years. It looked permanent. It looked like it would always be there. It had about 8 good years left. Now, here's the thing about how we lose places like this. It's never one blow. It's a series of them, and some of them come from directions nobody could have predicted. The first one came from a clock. A drive-in has one boss, and it isn't the owner, it's the sun. You cannot start the picture until it's dark. In 1966, Congress passed the Uniform Time Act, standardizing daylight saving time across the country, and in the summer, that shoved the sunset an hour deeper into the night. A show that used to start at 8:15 now couldn't start until 9:30. Think about what that did to the drive-in's best customer, the young family, the kids in pajamas. A 9:30 start means the cartoon ends at 10 and the feature lets out past midnight. Dad works Saturday. The little ones are wrecked, so the family started staying home, and the drive-in lost the very audience it was built for. Not to a competitor, to a law about clocks, passed with the best of intentions by people who never once thought about row 7. Then the 1970s piled on. The energy crisis made every unnecessary drive feel like a splurge. And at home, that little black and white television grew up. Color sets, then cable. The living room was learning to compete. The second cut was quieter, and it was fatal, because it came from underneath. Remember where Hollingshead and everyone who copied him built these places? On big, cheap land on the edge of town. 10, 15 acres of nothing, bought for next to nothing, because in 1950 the edge of town was the middle of nowhere. But then the suburbs came to them. The highways, the subdivisions, the shopping centers, all of it sprawled outward, year after year, until one morning the drive-in owner looked up and realized he wasn't on the edge of town anymore. He was sitting on prime commercial real estate, and the math turned merciless. As one drive-in owner put it, the land had become worth more than the business standing on it. A screen and a snack bar generating a few $1,000s on a summer weekend, or a shopping center, a car dealership, a housing tract, generating money all year, rain or shine. In every season the drive-in went dark. One by one, the owners did the only rational thing. They sold. And here's the bitter little rhyme in it. The very sprawl the drive-in was built to serve, Car America, edge of town America, is what made its land too valuable to keep. The drive-in was killed, in part, by the world it helped create. Some hung on by getting desperate. The family programming gave way to cheap horror double bills and worse, dusk-to-dawn marathons of whatever would rent. It kept the lights on a few more summers, but it burned the drive-in's good name with the very families who had built it. The playground rusted under the screen. And then, in the early 1980s, came the blow there was no answer for. The VCR. Beginning in the late 70s and exploding through the 80s, the video cassette recorder and the corner rental shop did to the drive-in what the drive-in had once done to the downtown movie palace. It made watching a movie easier. Why pack the car, pay by the head, and fight the mosquitoes, when the movie would come to your living room for a couple of dollars? The drive-in's whole promise, watch in comfort, in your own space, with your own family, was now available on your own couch. The numbers tell the story with brutal simplicity. 4,000 screens at the peak. By the time the 80s were done with them, the great majority had gone dark. Lots that once held 400 cars on a Friday night grew weeds through the asphalt. The screens stood for years afterward, too big to bother tearing down. Great white ghosts by the side of the highway, facing empty fields where the speaker poles still stood in their curved rows like headstones. And for the few hundred that survived everything, the clock, the land, the tape, there was one last toll booth. When Hollywood went digital in the early 2010s, film prints stopped coming. Converting a single screen to a digital projector ran on the order of $70,000, $80,000. For a seasonal, weekends-only family business, that was the whole game. Some raised the money. Towns actually rallied, held fundraisers, passed the hat to save their screen. Many more quietly didn't reopen in the spring. Today, of the more than 4,000, somewhere around 250 to 300 drive-ins are still running in America. For one strange summer in 2020, when the world shut down, they were suddenly precious again. The only theaters in the country where you could safely see a movie, and pop-up screens bloomed in parking lots like it was 1955. It was a lovely echo. It didn't last. So what did we actually lose? Because it isn't really about movies. It was never really about movies. The drive-in was the town's back porch. It was the one place where the whole community, families, Teenagers, old couples, the night shift guy catching the late show, sat down in the same field, under the same sky, and watched the same story together. You went to the movies and you were home at the same time. No other place in American life ever pulled that trick off. It was the first movie your kids ever saw, asleep before the second reel. It was the mosquito coil on the dashboard and the smell of the snack bar and your father's silhouette against the biggest screen on earth. It was a first kiss in row 9 that somebody's grandmother still hasn't told anybody about. And it didn't die because we stopped loving it. It died the way all these places die. A time law here, a land deal there, a new gadget in the living room. 100 decisions, each one sensible, each one small, made by people who never had to stand in that field on a July night and hear 400 cars go quiet when the floodlights died. If you remember the drive-in, the pajamas, the speaker on the glass, the dancing hot dog, the walk to the snack bar in the dark, tell me about it in the comments. What was your drive-in called? Is it still standing, or is there a shopping center where row 7 used to be? And if you know someone who fell asleep in the back of a station wagon under one of those screens, share this with them before that memory fades too. Subscribe to the channel to keep these stories alive, because someone has to remember what we had and how we let it go, and it might as well be us.